What a year it was for the Woodsmen. Year 7 was one of the craziest seasons that I've ever witnessed on this channel. And we ended up with the championship. Just incredible stuff. 3-1 comeback in the WCF, a 3-0 comeback for the first time ever in the history of the league. In the finals to win our first championship, BJ Cooper, rookie head coach, wins the title in his first year with a revamped coaching staff, which is just fantastic. So the catalyst for that was these 3 trades during this season. The first of which was trading backup guards Will Hollins and Byron Wellington in exchange for Jared Vanderbilt and Shane Blackman. That was at the very start of the year, right before we tipped off year 7. Then, a few months later, we traded Shane Blackman and Lauri Markkanen, who was a free agent signing, to the Bucks to acquire Bol Bol and Dinwiddie, but it's pretty much just for Bol Bol. And he was a huge part of this run and a huge part of why we won a title in the finals, because once he came in, the offense was different, the defense was different, things changed. We also traded DeSumo for Herman Pollard and Justice Winslow. This one, I think, panned out for the most part in the regular season, but come playoff time, Pollard kind of showed some weaknesses. So, not sure what to do about Pollard, but that trade was probably the weakest of the 3 that we made this year. None of them were, huge trades, not trading anyone, huge starting players or anything, but still 3 trades that helped us get to where we are right now, which is with a crown on our heads. And before we start the episode and actually dive into the offseason, I want to go over a couple of things. The first is going to be sliders and all the settings that I have right now. So I'm going to go through all of them because there have been some changes that I've made just a few minutes ago before I recorded. But I'll go through all the settings right now. So if you want to skip this, just skip a few minutes ahead. Use the little scrubber thing on the timeline and just go ahead. But first, here are the quarter links and all that stuff. I don't normalize the play to sim sets, but I do so for the minutes just in case sim casting during the game messes up the minute counts. But so far, there's been no issues. Best of 7, obviously. And the off-season auto time periods, I pretty much have all of this off. I do everything myself during the off-season, so I keep this all off. For features, I have it as 8 protected players. I got staff abilities, fatigue, team chemistry, rule changes all on. I have these ones down here off, and I have draft class quality at 50. I did have it a little bit higher earlier, but it kind of resulted in a lot more like mid-70s players being in the league and not really getting more superstars. So I put it back to 50, and it seems to be working out so far. I obviously have injuries on with a 25 career ending frequency. For difficulty, I got sim difficulty at 50, negotiations at 80. You can just scroll through this while I scroll through. Just pause as you need to. I'm not going to commentate over every single thing, but these are those settings. Then for simulation, here are these settings. These are mostly untouched, except for a couple of things. And I'm not going to count out making adjustments to these during the season, but I think I have a good feeling about this going into year 8, so not going to make any more adjustments right now. And by the way, these are all uploaded, I believe. If they're not, I will upload them right now. But I will upload these in a moment. Ticker settings, these don't really matter that much. This is just personal preference. Pretty sure I have not touched this at all. And that's it for the general settings. I will save these. I will share them. All of my stuff is going to be labeled like Stumpy CPU versus CPU. So if you see that and you're on Next Gen Xbox, you should be able to download these yourself and make any adjustments that you want to make in case there's anything that's weird on your end. But I will label it this. And there we go. And then for team features, I have most of this stuff off except for relationships, comma, or colon morale. I have that on. Otherwise, I have all of this stuff off. For team automation, I have all of this stuff off. I like to do this on myself, so nothing really weird there. And that's it for this. For gameplay, we're on custom difficulty. We got game speed up to 56. That's very important. It must be at 56 for these sliders to work. And then most of this stuff is just kind of personal preference. So now for tuning sliders, here are all the settings for trades. Most of these are on except for trade override and CPU trade offers. I do have CPU trades on. I turned off trade approval and I upped the trade frequency, but it is important to keep in mind that you should be upping the trade frequency by a lot, like maybe up to like 99 on the day before and the day of the trade deadline. Otherwise, there won't be as many trades as there usually are in real life, and I've made that mistake before in this series. Sometimes I forget because sometimes you just don't know the exact date of the trade deadline. But you can just copy these settings, obviously. Just go scroll through them. And for progression, I have this up to 65 because in real life, usually if a guy's not like a superstar by his third year, then usually he's not going to be a superstar at all. Obviously, there are some different cases where that's not the case, and that still can happen in 2K. But player progression is up because players usually get better within their first 3 years, and then they have their peak afterwards. So that's why that's up. I have player regression down to 50. I think it's at 55 to start, but it could be at 50 on default. And for training, this is mostly unchanged. Then for attribute progression during the growth phase, these are mostly unchanged, but there might be some differences than the default. So just, scroll through and pause as you need to. As I scroll through, this is the growth phase. Then for the peak phase, these are the settings. I did make some small adjustments to these. Keep that in mind. And then in the decline phase, here are the attributes for that. There you go. And for contracts, here are the settings for this. And those are all of those. And then finally, CPU/user sliders. I have upped the free throw difficulty because pretty much all teams and all players were shooting lights out when we watched. This does not affect the free throws when you sim, but it does when you watch. And free throw difficulty, despite being under user settings, also affects the CPU, especially if you're doing CPU versus CPU like I do, and you want to watch your team. So this affects both teams. So I put it from 25 back up to 45, and that should give you a good balance of makes and misses, and it should rely more on the real rating of the player. Otherwise, the user ratings don't usually matter for CPU besides the free throw difficulty, but I will show you these either way. But again, the CPU settings are the ones that actually matter for CPU versus CPU. I did make some major adjustments to the movement settings. So I'll show you guys what that means over in the CPU section once I finish scrolling through this one. But what I mean by that is I've kept all of the offensive settings the exact same that we used for most of this season, especially after those adjustments during the year in year 7. The defense has not been changed since last time, but the attributes have. I put the acceleration down to 44 from 50. I put speed from 50 to 44. And then same thing for lateral quickness. But then I upped the attributes down here for movement. I put speed and acceleration without ball for the max rating up to 100 for everything, because this actually affects, how much are you nerfing guys who are fast. And it was at 75 and 45 split for pretty much all of these settings. And that's not correct. It needs to be 100 for the max rating and then 30 for speed with ball and acceleration with ball. And then for without ball for both, 135 for each. So this will give us some better movement, some more realism. This will allow those quicker guards to get by big men more often and just guys who are slower, because it wasn't happening that often. It did happen, but not as much. And it was nerfing guys who were quicker and made guys who were slower a bit slower as well. So these settings are also uploaded with the Stumpy CPU versus CPU June 3rd title. You can only do the download them if you're on Xbox Next Gen. Otherwise, just copy the settings from this video. Besides that, it is very important that you go into your coach settings and you put on adaptive coaching engine for offense and defense, especially if you're doing CPU versus CPU. This will allow the offense to run earlier in the shot clock, so it's very important. Keep timeout, player minutes, and subs on auto. Keep sub method on rotation. Offensive play vision, this does not matter. So just put it on user plays only. Play vision display on lights. Same thing for play calling messages. That's just personal preference. You need to have offensive and defensive play calling on auto as well. Same for late game fouling. Team communication only matters if you are playing as the user. Then I have freelance series order and freelance series repeat as static and repeat on success. Before we actually move on, last but not least, is to go over the changes to our court and to our uniforms. This is the new court. Give it a bit more of a modern look, a bit of a brighter court, and we put some paint in the actual paint this time, and we take the paint out of the free throw line. So this is the new court. It's not set in stone, but I like it a lot better than the old one. And I think it looks a lot better. So if you guys have any comments on this, then share below. And then for the uniforms, this is the new home uniform. We're going to rock some pinstripes with kind of some like similar side stripes. It's a very similar color scheme because, you know, why would it not be? We're the same team. And we give ourselves, you know, a bit more of a modern uniform, and we take away the like circle design for the team name, but only for this uniform. But I think this one looks pretty clean. I like the pinstripes. It adds, you know, more depth to the uniforms. And also, by the way, I did give Anderson some different drip. I gave him a left arm sleeve instead of just like a full shoulder and arm sleeve. And then that like right shoulder sleeve, that like short shoulder, will only show up a couple of times. I have it on sometimes frequency, so it might show up, might not. And then I gave him some of those knee sleeves as well, and I lowered his socks a little bit as well because his socks were like over calf high socks, and it was a bit too much with those gargantuan just like thighs for calves down there. But these are the home uniforms, and the home accessory is white. Then the away uniforms, these might be my favorite that I've ever made, but we go with black uniforms away. We go with kind of a highlighted white number, and we stick with the, you know, circle number or our circle name for our team name, and we keep the axes on the sides as well. I think these will look really cool, and we can use these on the road. And the alternate uniform, which I could make some adjustments to if need be, but I like these as well, and I'm pretty sure that we can use these at home and on the road. So that should be good because I can change the accessory if I want to the red. And then we can just wear those on the road. Or if we go home, we can keep the accessory as white and it should be fine. So yeah, definitely like these as well. And we're going to be seeing all three uniforms pretty heavily. I don't plan to use just the home or just the away. I plan to use the alternate both at home and away. And so we'll have a pretty good balance of these. But I like the jerseys. We have a PayPal sponsor for the away and alternate uniforms. And we also add the Nike and NBA logos on the shorts like all other teams have in the NBA. Then we rock a Gatorade sponsor for the home uniforms only because I couldn't find a black PayPal one to use for the home one, so it just would not even show up there because it's all white. But yep, there we go. Those are all the changes to the uniforms and the court, and I actually am looking forward to using these. I think they look pretty clean. And before we jump into the actual action for today, here's who we have who's going to return next season right now on contract. We've got Halliburton and Anderson, obviously, on those 4-year contracts. They're going into year 2 of those deals. Don Payne has one more year left on a team option for his rookie deal. Vanderbilt will be here for one more season at the very least. We've got Pollard on a tradable contract. We've got Todd Graves. And we've got Carney going into his third season of his 4-year rookie deal. Then the guys who are not on contract for this upcoming season are as follows. Keldon Johnson, who I want to bring back. Spencer Dinwiddie, who is not going to return, especially on that kind of a deal. Bull, who I want to bring back. Brandon Clark, who definitely is an intriguing guy to return. Kevin Huerter, Chuma Okeke, Justice Winslow, Ivica Zubac, and that's it. And then Nurkic on dead cap, who's no longer on the team. So, definitely want to focus on bringing back Keldon Johnson and Bull to the best of our abilities, and we'll see how we do. So let's get right down to it. Let's advance into our first Champions offseason. Player retirements, you got Tobias Harris, Chris Middleton, Bradley Beal, Oladipo, a lot of those older guys who have regressed in recent years. Nurkic has retired, Fred VanVleet is gone, and more. In staff retirements, our big man coach, Kenny Payne, has retired, so we're going to have to fill that spot. Otherwise, we didn't lose anybody else on our coaching staff. Bradley Beal is the only player to get a jersey retired this season. He gets his Wizards one retired. He played there for 15 seasons. Now for the draft lottery, we don't have a pick at all in this draft in the first or second round. So we're going to skip this. And it does look like the Kings have the first overall pick. Lakers at 2, then Clippers, Magic for 2 picks in a row with picks 4 and 5, which is pretty crazy. The Sound have pick 6. Then Bulls, Raptors, Rockets, and Jazz to round out the top 10. And the Trailblazers do have our pick in the first round at pick 32. Now for staff signing, we currently have full staffing, so I guess they had signed a different coaching guy in place of our big man coach, and his name is Chris DeMarco, but I kind of recognize him, and he has badges, so I'm not going to worry about losing money on firing him. And I want to keep this staff around. Why would I make any changes when we were fantastic down the stretch? And the first year with BJ Cooper as the head coach, I like what he brought to this team, and this coaching staff did a great job. So no changes from me at all for any of our staff. So now we have the draft, and we don't have any picks, and I'm not going to make any trades or anything, so I am going to send to the very end, and we'll go over this draft in the draft summary. And it was Sylvester McNeil who went first overall. He's a 6'7" point guard, 81 overall, 18 years old, 10 badges, a two-way inside-out playmaker. And yeah, he looks like he's going to be a very good player. Already at 81, 6'7". Going to have plenty of mismatches at point guard during his time in the league. He's already a really good playmaker and defender. And shooting is in a pretty decent spot. He's a good athlete and has A+ potential. That's a great pick. Then Mao Chung Lee got taken second overall by the Lakers. 6'6" shooting guard, 80 overall, 9 badges, 3-level scorer. Already a fantastic shooter, A potential. Then you got Doug Strickland with 6 badges, third overall. Chris Franklin, and then Daryl Logan. Both were taken by the Magic. And they both look like pretty solid players, especially Logan, who's a 7-foot guy that's got 4 badges and is a 79 overall. Then you got Gabriel Webb III, who is a 7'2" center, interior finisher. Corey Andrews, Malcolm Sullivan. Really no misses so far in this draft that I can tell. Eddie Hayward went. Ralph Bledsoe. Bert Butler, 77 overall. Malik Sheldon, 77. Abraham Moreland, 74. Alain Gerbad, 77. Igor Klimov, 73. Wally Garnett, 77. Homer Kent, 74. Mitch Byers. Willard Graham was the lowest overall so far to the Pacers. Hal Garner. Clint Black, 76. Sam Whitney. Oliver Bayless. Brevin Walker. Luis Sharp. Bob Evans III, Wes George, Matthew Jameson, Giovinco Main, Fernando Chavez, Garrison Best, and Ray Kelly which would have been our pick. Well, not would have been our pick, but would have been at the same spot as our pick. Then in the second round, a couple of 72s. Mac Barrett, 73 overall. Don Kent, actually 6 badges, 73 overall. Good pick by the Bucks. Paul Bush, 73 overall. Ooh. Steph Curry the second? What? There's no way. This guy is not old enough to be Steph Curry the second. What? He's a great shooter. Drafted by the Clippers. 6'6", age 21. Good athlete, B potential. That's a good pick by the Clippers. What the heck? Couple of 73s. Sheldon Jefferson. Okay. Pretty good second round. That was the draft. We have no rookie signings to make, obviously. And now we have team player options. We're going to accept these, obviously, for both Carney and for Don Payne. Those are easy. And we have no qualifying offers to make. So we have to try and bring back Keldon Johnson and Bobo to the best of our ability. Those guys are both key to bring back. We do have about 55.4 in cap hold and 41.15 in, or negative 41.15 in cap room. So we'll see what happens there. But here are the free agents. There are a lot of them, and they are plentiful. Giannis, Evan Mobley, Tatum, Calvin Gordon, the top 3 guys all unrestricted. Calvin Gordon's going to get re-signed, obviously. Scotty Barnes, unrestricted. So is Tyrese Maxey, Lonzo Ball, Jaren Jackson Jr., Ben Simmons, Desmond Bane, Paolo Pacciani, and there's Keldon Johnson. There's no current offers. We're obviously going to try and bring him back first things first. And we should be able to afford this, I think. We should be able to. Want to offer him a bit lower than what he's asking for because he has no other offers out there. So I'll lower it to around here. We'll offer that contract. Miles Turner's available again. He wants a lot of money, and there's a lot more players as well. Let's go find Bobo and try and make an offer for him. And he seems to only want like 5 mil. So we're going to lower this. And pray to God that we can bring both guys back, because they were key. Evan Mobley signs a 5-year deal to return to Cleveland, while Keldon Johnson and Bobo sign deals to return to the Woodsmen. You bring them back on 3- and 2-year deals respectively. Big parts of this team. Core players. So with those 2 guys brought back, here's who we still have on the team. Anderson, Halliburton, Keldon Johnson on that 3-year contract. Vanderbilt with 1 year left on his deal. Don Payne with 1 year left on his rookie contract. Herman Pollard, Todd Graves, Bobo, and Carney. So already, we brought pretty much the entire core of this team back. And I'm excited for this. I think Todd Graves will progress better for offense, and I think he'll get some more playing time during the year. And I don't necessarily want to trade Herman Pollard because I feel like he could be a really good backup during the regular season, and then we turn to Carney maybe for the playoffs if things get dicey. But I still want to believe in Pollard with that 1 year left on his contract. I don't want to get rid of him just yet, and I'm kind of tired of making trades. I like who we have on this team, so it's about just bringing in guys to fill in the gaps while we can. So let's try and see if we can bring back Brandon Clark maybe, and go from there, if we can even do that. Alright, so Brandon Clark seems to want the vet minimum, but he is a 74 overall and he's 32, so he's probably going to have some kind of regression. So I might want to go a different direction for him because he was also a reserves player for most of the year and then gave us some good minutes off the bench. So let's try and see if we can find somebody who's got similar ratings, but who is a bit younger and won't actually have regression before we enter next season. There is already Tyler, who we have faced before, and he was the guy that I had considered drafting previously. Gives you good inside defense and rebounding. He's 7 foot tall. Not a lot on the offensive end, though, so maybe we can try and find somebody else for a similar contract that can maybe do both. Alright, I feel like maybe Achua could be a target of ours. He obviously wants a bit more than I was expecting, but if we can bring him in, maybe that could be pretty much the same kind of player, but without the regression. So I'll lower this. I'm not even sure if we can even do this, but I will try and offer this to him. I'm not sure if it's possible. There's also Keon Murphy, who has 11 badges, good physicals, B+ rebounding, A- inside defense, and B+ inside scoring. He wants $5 million. I'm going to offer him a contract as well, and I would be satisfied with either him or Achua or both. I would probably take Murphy over Achua just because it would save us some money, but let's see if we can sign one of them. We're going to renounce the rights to Zubats. Okay, so Achua and Murphy both will sign, but I'm going to decline the offer for Achua and sign Murphy instead because of those badges and because of the really good inside scoring, and the height is better. So let's see if we can sign him, and we do. So we now have 10 players on the roster with that signing, and I think that pretty much rounds out the 5 rotations. Because we're going to start, I think I'm going to bring Keldon Johnson off the bench, but in a massive minute role. So it's going to be probably the same lineup as in the finals, but I could also go back to what we had during the regular season last year, and then if we need more height, bring Bobo off the bench like we did this past year. But I could see us going with Anderson, Halliburton, Vando, Payne, and Bobo, and then off the bench having Keldon Johnson, Pollard, Graves, Murphy, and Carney, and having 10 guys play. I think that's a really good rotation right there, especially with Graves and Carney likely having some pretty decent development going into next season as well. So going to focus on just reserves players now. Then we'll also go over the other signings that were made across the league as well. But I'll try and sign some backups now, like a backup guard, a backup forward, and try and get us up to a full roster. Zet is available. It would be a really interesting guy to bring in, huh? Bring him back as a reserves player in case we need him, because guys are going to get hurt. Guys might be playing poorly. Could share minutes with Todd Graves, perhaps. That could be really interesting. We're going to sign Nick Claxton as a backup center/power forward to a vet minimum. And we're going to sign Omer Azet and Dalen Battle both. So we get a guard and a forward that can provide some good minutes if somebody gets hurt. And we also bring back Tyus Jones, who has already had 2 previous stints with the Woodsmen. Now he's going to make his 3rd. And our last signing of this offseason will be to bring in Chuma Okeke. He will return to our reserves team. And now we have a full roster of players. I will go over the full roster in a moment, as I will sim through the rest of this, and we'll go over all of the big signings that have been made. So Giannis returned to the Bucks on a 3-year deal. You saw Mobley's contract. Tatum returns to Boston. Calvin Gordon returns to San Antonio. Scotty Barnes returns to Toronto. Maxey returns to his team. Lonzo Ball. Did he play in Philly this past year? Yes, he did. So he will return to Philadelphia on a 5-year contract. JJJ returns to the St. Louis Sound. And Ben Simmons heads to Charlotte out of our conference. Goodbye. Desmond Bane returns to the Orlando Magic. Keldon Johnson's deal. Andrew Wiggins returns to Memphis. John Collins goes to the Lakers. Same for Wendell Carter. Some other deals down here. Herb Jones goes to St. Louis. Jeremy Lawson returns to the Cavaliers. Josh Christopher returns to the Spurs. Jalen Smith, I believe, was on the Spurs as well. And those were all the major signings. Will Hollins does return to Memphis on a 2-year contract. I wonder if Wellington returned anywhere. Did he return to wherever he went? And nope, Wellington is available. He is a restricted free agent though, but seems to have improved a little bit. And when he played last year, after he got traded back to Philadelphia, he put up 19 points per game, 45% shooting, 43% from 3 in 36 minutes. Like, yeah, I mean, he was good. Like, yeah, he was great. That's per 36 minutes, though. It was actually 14.6 points per game with 4 assists, but still good numbers. And, yeah, so they did give him the qualifying offer. So he will return to Philadelphia if he does not get an offer this week, which he has not. So those are all the major signings, and now we are done with our signings, and the team pretty much stays the same. And now it's time for player progression. Hoping for some big things here. It looks like Anderson stays the same. Halliburton, I believe, earned 1 badge and stays at his overall. Keldon Johnson goes down by a little bit, but, not too terrible at all. Don Payne goes up to 82. He gets better mid-range shooting, better three-point shooting, and better defense on the perimeter, and a IQ of C+. So, not what I expected. I would have loved him to have maybe some better improvements here, but I think what I'll do for him is I will edit his player. In fact, I have to wait. Yeah, I can't change his contract, but I can change his vitals, which is where the potential stuff is. And his max potential is 84, so I'm going to go ahead and boost his potential up to 84. And I'll make it 85. So I'll do that. I don't know if that's going to affect it right now, but I'll save the changes. It doesn't look like it'll affect him right now. But if I am going to adjust any actual attributes for Payne, it's probably only going to be physicals, IQ, and maybe perimeter defense by a little bit. That's probably it, though. I don't want to change his actual shooting attributes or his rebounding one. I would rather change the intangibles because players usually just become smarter. They learn more about basketball as time goes on. So I'm not sure if the potential will catch on immediately, but it might. But if not, I will make the adjustments later on. But Vanderbilt stays the same. Todd Graves gets a pretty nice boost, and he's got now 10 badges. I'm not sure how many he had before. I think it was like 6. But he goes up by 4. He gets better inside scoring, mid-range shooting, and three-point shooting by a pretty good number. So he's going to get a lot more playing time. With higher rebounding, physicals, IQ. Yeah, he's going to be... And his potential goes up to A-. Whoa. I did not change that. You guys haven't seen it. I did not change anything about him. Meanwhile, Herman Pollard gets better mid-range shooting. Otherwise, he stays pretty much the same. And Carney goes up in all areas. A +3 in overall. Better inside scoring, mid-range shooting, and three-point shooting up to A and A+ for those respectively. Better defense. Pretty much every attribute increasing his potential also went from B+ to A-. Bol gets better IQ, but otherwise stays the same. Keon Murphy loses 1 overall, but not really any actual ratings. And Dalen Battle goes up by 1. Claxton loses some. Tyus Jones loses some, as does Azette and Okiki. But otherwise, that's good progression, especially for Graves and Carney, who I really want to see a boost from in the upcoming year off the bench, because they're going to get some playing time. And for Graves, what are his badges now? Does he have any shooting ones? I doubt it. They're all for defense and rebounding. So he's got silver clamps, menace, and off-ball pest, and then bronze ankle braces, challenger, glove, interceptor, pick dodger, pogo stick, and workhorse. Yeah, he's going to be pretty awesome to watch on defense, and he will shoot better as well, I think. So that's great. Carney, I don't know if he gained any badges, but he does have now silver volume shooter and bronze claymore and corner specialist. And as we saw, big ratings boost on the offensive side of things, which is really nice to see. If I can actually get to his attributes, that's really nice to see. He should be a much more consistent shooter and a much better defender as well. So those are all those players' progression, and I like what I'm seeing here. I feel a lot better about that, so we can move on. NBA Summer League, we're going to sim through this. And the All-Star City this year will be Miami, Florida. I'll see you guys there halfway through the year in year 8. Okay, so I've set our lineup to start this year, but I'm not entirely set on this because I'm kind of unsure of how it's going to work out. Maybe I gave some guys too many minutes to start the year as starters, but I'm going to rock with Halliburton, Anderson, Vando, Bobo, and Payne. So same starting 5 as we used in the finals. And this would mean that Halliburton gets about 31 minutes a game, Anderson at 35, Vando at 33, which might be a bit too much. Bobo at 31, and Don Payne at 33. Then off the bench, you would have Keldon Johnson with 23 minutes off the bench. Carney and Keon Murphy getting 15. Graves gets 13, and Pollard gets 11. And now this is what the rotation timeline looks like right now. But again, I am very open to making adjustments to this. But I'm trying to figure out a way to make this work, because if this won't work, then I can just put in Keldon Johnson back as the starting small forward. But starting Vando and Bobo does present kind of an issue with big man depth off the bench, because if we do that, then you have Keldon Johnson, Carney, Graves, and Pollard, all guys who are like 6'5", 6'6", starting together, which means that somebody's playing power forward for the most part. But I try to work around that by having Vando come in when the backups are out there for the most part, and then having Keldon Johnson play power forward just for a couple of minutes to start the fourth quarter, and then he'll go back to small forward once Bobo checks back in. So I'm starting with this, but obviously I'm very open to making changes to this. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I actually might make one slight change here. It's to give Keldon Johnson more minutes in the third quarter, which would be to, after the first 4 minutes, maybe benching Vando for a little while, and then bringing in Vando towards the end of the game. Actually, I think I like it right now as it is. That looks pretty good to me. And putting it up to 25. So I will save this for now. But I am open to making adjustments to this lineup if you guys see anything that you guys recognize as being a potential issue. But I like this, and I guess we'll see how we do. And we open this season against the New York Knicks at home to start our title defense. So I hope to God that we can see our ring ceremony, but I'm not sure if 2K even knows that they can do that for expansion teams. We saw it last year for the Cavaliers on opening night. We'll see if we actually get one on our home courts with the ring ceremony. But hope to God that we get it. Hope to God that we see the banner get dropped. But it might not happen. I'm not sure how it works, because sometimes there are features that expansion teams just don't have. But that is the off-season, folks. That is the off-season. As for the system, we're going to stick with balance. That's what we used last year, and it worked wonders. We did a good job. We're going to start with much higher team chemistry at 64% than it was last season. The playbook is going to be the same. And guys should all have their returning numbers. Know that the guys who are still on the team will have theirs. Keldon Johnson gets number 11 back. Todd Graves, yeah, Pollard should have his. Keon Murphy's going to wear 51. Carney with 7. Bobo gets his 15 back, which I believe is what he wore before. So yeah, those are all the adjustments. Zet now wearing number 4. I think he was wearing 0 when he played for us, right? Maybe it was number 1, but it was some low number like that. But he's back as a depth piece. And this is our full roster. I feel really good about this team. I feel really good about who we have. And before we actually start year 8, I will set up the training for each player. I'll set up the badge training for the mentorships. I'll do all of that right after I finish recording here. And I will catch you guys for the start of year 8 on October 24th against the Knicks at home. It's going to be about a week until I can upload the next video, because I'm going to be out of town. But as soon as I can record, I will do so. And I'll see you guys there. I'm very excited to get into this next chapter with the Woodsmen. And yeah, I will see you guys there. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. And yeah, peace.